Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Nightborne and watched the stars through the main window. The ship moved through space like a ghost, invisible to all sensors thanks to its advanced cloaking system. 3 years had passed, since the Zephyrian Empire started destroying human colonies across the galaxy. The war was not going well for humanity. The Nightborne was different from other human ships. It used experimental quantum drives that could bend space itself. The hull was made of adaptive metal that could change its shape and absorb energy attacks. Only 50 people knew this ship existed, and Jake was proud to command it. Lieutenant. Commander Ryan Brooks walked up to Jake and handed him a data pad. Ryan was the best tactical officer in the human fleet, and Jake trusted his judgment completely. Captain, we just received an urgent message from Admiral Kate Sullivan. Ryan said. His face looked worried. Jake read the message quickly. The mining colony of New Helena was under attack. 50,000 civilians lived there, and Zephyrian battle cruisers had surrounded the planet. The colony was asking for help, but Admiral A. Sullivan's orders were clear. The Nightborne was to observe only and not engage the enemy under any circumstances. How long until we reach New Helena? Jake asked. Chief Engineer Lisa Parker looked up from her console. Lisa was young but brilliant, and she knew every bolt and wire on the Nightborne. 6 hours at maximum stealth speed, Captain, she replied. The quantum drives are running perfectly, but I cannot push them harder without risking detection. Jake nodded and walked to the tactical station where Ryan was studying enemy positions. 3 Zephyrian cruisers orbited the planet, each one twice, the size of the largest human battleship. The aliens had superior technology and firepower. Their plasma weapons could cut through human shields like they were made of paper. Sir, I am picking up transmissions from the colony, said communications. Officer Amy Carter. She was new to the crew but had proven herself reliable. They are begging for evacuation ships. The Zephyrians have started bombing the main cities. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. The Zephyrians showed no mercy to civilians. They burned entire worlds and left nothing alive behind them. Human intelligence still did not understand why the aliens attacked with such brutality. Some believed they wanted to wipe out humanity completely. Put the colony transmission on speakers, Jake ordered. The bridge filled with static. Then a desperate voice came through. This is Governor Paul Henderson of New Helena. We have 48,000 civilians in the underground shelters. The aliens are using some kind of new weapon. Our shields cannot stop it. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help now. The transmission cut to screaming and explosions, then went silent. Jake clenched his fists and stared at the tactical display. The red dots representing enemy ships moved slowly around the planet, like vultures. Dr. Peter Hayes joined them on the bridge. He was the ship's science officer and one of the smartest people Jake had ever met. Peter had been studying Zephyrian technology for years, trying to find weaknesses. Captain, I have been analyzing their weapon signatures, he said. These are not standard plasma cannons. The energy output is much higher than anything we have seen before. How much higher? Ryan asked. Peter checked his readings and frowned. 20 times more powerful than their previous weapons. At this rate, they will break through the colonies. Shields in less than 4 hours. Jake made a decision that would change everything. He turned to Lisa at the engineering station. How are our experimental weapons? He asked. Lisa looked nervous. The quantum torpedoes have never been tested in real combat, Captain. The targeting system might not work properly. And if we fire them, every ship in the system will see the energy signature. What about our defensive systems? Jake continued. Lisa checked her monitors. The adaptive armor should be able to handle their standard weapons, but these new plasma cannons are unknown. We might absorb the first few hits, but sustained fire could overwhelm our systems. Jake walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each member of his crew. These people had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human space. They knew the Nightborne might be humanity's last hope if the war turned worse, but right now, 50,000 innocent people were dying, and he had the power to save them. "Sir, Admiral Sullivan was very clear about our orders," Ryan said quietly. "We are to remain hidden and gather intelligence only. If we attack, we reveal our position and capabilities to the enemy." Jake understood the logic. The Nightborne was too valuable to risk in one battle. But he also understood that sometimes orders had to be broken to do what was right. He had joined the military to protect people, not to watch them die while he hid in the shadows. "Amy, open a channel to all stations," Jake said. His voice was calm but determined. "This is Captain Morrison. We are going to save those people. I know this goes against our orders, but I cannot watch genocide happen when we have the power to stop it." The Nightborne dropped out of stealth mode directly behind the largest Zephyrian cruiser. Jake had positioned his ship perfectly, using the planet's gravity well to mask their approach until the last second. The alien vessel was massive, its dark hull covered in weapon ports that glowed with deadly energy. "Fire all quantum torpedoes," Jake ordered. Ryan's fingers danced across his console as he locked onto 3 different targets. The Nightborne shuddered as 6 experimental weapons launched simultaneously. Jake had never seen quantum torpedoes in action before, and the sight amazed him. The torpedoes looked like balls of blue lightning that bent space around them. They moved faster than normal missiles and left trails of distorted starlight behind them. The first Zephyrian cruiser tried to turn and bring its weapons to bear, but the quantum torpedo struck its engine section before it could react. The explosion was unlike anything Jake had seen. Instead of fire and debris, the enemy ship simply folded in on itself like paper being crumpled. The quantum weapon had destabilized the molecular bonds holding the hull together. Within seconds, a ship the size of a city was reduced to a cloud of atoms. "Direct hit on target 2, Ryan reported. The second cruiser had managed to raise its shields, but the quantum torpedo passed right through them as if they did not exist. The alien ship split down the middle, its 2 halves spinning away into space. The third Zephyrian vessel was faster than its companions. Its captain had reacted quickly to the surprise attack and was already firing back at the Nightborne. Streams of superheated plasma lanced through space toward Jake's ship. "Brace for impact," Lisa called out from engineering. The plasma beams struck the Nightborne's adaptive armor, and Jake felt the ship shake under the assault. But something incredible happened. Instead of burning through the hull, the armor absorbed the energy and began to glow with a soft blue light. "Captain, the adaptive armor is working perfectly," Lisa said with excitement in her voice. "It is converting their plasma into usable energy for our systems. We are actually getting stronger from their attacks." Jake smiled grimly. Human engineers had spent years developing technology that could match the Zephyrians. The adaptive armor was based on alien hull fragments recovered from previous battles. But human scientists had improved on the design, making it far more efficient than the original. "Ryan, target their weapon systems," Jake ordered. "I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. We need prisoners for intelligence." The Nightborne moved through space with impossible grace. The quantum drives allowed maneuvers that defied normal physics. Jake's ship could turn on a point, accelerate instantly, and even phase through solid matter for brief moments. The Zephyrian captain had never seen anything like it. "They are trying to escape," Amy reported. "The remaining cruiser is powering up its jump drive." "Not today," Jake said. "Lisa, give me everything the quantum drives have." The Nightborne suddenly appeared directly in front of the fleeing enemy ship. The Zephyrian vessel could not stop in time and crashed into the Nightborne's forward shields. Both ships shook from the impact, but the human vessel's adaptive systems quickly compensated for the damage. "Fire precision shots at their engine core," Jake ordered. Ryan carefully targeted the enemy's power source and fired a single quantum torpedo. The explosion was much smaller this time, but it completely disabled the Zephyrian ship's ability to move or fight. "Sir, I am reading escape pods launching from the colony," Amy said. The attack stopped when we destroyed the first two cruisers. The remaining aliens must have recalled their ground forces. Jake felt relief wash over him. They had saved lives today, but he knew the cost would be high. Admiral Sullivan would be furious that he had revealed humanity's secret weapon. Every Zephyrian ship in the galaxy would now know that humans had developed new technology. "Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Sullivan," Amy said. Her voice was quiet, and Jake knew what was coming. He had disobeyed direct orders and changed the course of the war with a single decision. "Put her through," Jake said. The main screen filled with the face of Admiral Kate Sullivan. She was a veteran officer who had fought the Zephyrians for 3 years. Her expression was cold with anger. "Captain Morrison, you have violated direct orders and compromised our most important military asset," she said. "You are hereby relieved of command. Commander Brooks will take the Nightborne back to Titan Station immediately." Jake stood at attention. "Yes, Admiral. I understand the consequences of my actions." "Do you, Captain?" Sullivan continued. "Because of your decision, the enemy now knows we have quantum weapons and adaptive armor. They will develop countermeasures. You may have won this battle, but you have made the entire war much harder." The transmission ended, and silence filled the bridge. Jake looked at his crew and saw something unexpected in their faces. Instead of disappointment or anger, he saw respect and determination. "Sir," Ryan said quietly. "The crew has something to say." Lisa stepped forward first. "Captain, we all volunteered for this mission. We knew the risks when we signed up. What you did today was right, regardless of orders." Amy nodded in agreement. "Those people would be dead if not for your decision. That matters more than military." "Protocol." Dr. Hayes joined them. "Captain, I have been analyzing the data from our engagement. The Zephyrian weapons we faced today were far more advanced than their previous technology. I believe they were testing something new on that colony." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Peter showed him the energy readings from the alien attack. "These plasma cannons were specifically designed to counter human shield technology. The aliens have been studying our defenses and developing weapons to overcome them." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. If the Zephyrians were adapting their weapons to human technology, it meant they were planning something much larger than random colony attacks. The war was about to get much worse. The Nightborne limped toward Titan Station with damaged hull plating and failing systems. Lisa had managed to keep the quantum drives working, but the ship needed major repairs. Jake sat in his quarters, knowing that his military career was probably over. In a few hours, he would face a court-martial for disobeying direct orders. Ryan knocked on his door and entered without waiting for permission. "Captain, you need to see what Dr. Hayes found in the Zephyrian databanks," he said. His face was pale, and Jake had never seen him look so worried. They walked to the science lab where Peter was hunched over multiple computer screens. The captured alien ship had provided a treasure trove of information, but what Peter had discovered was terrifying. "Captain, the Zephyrians are not what we thought they were," he said. Jake looked at the alien text scrolling across the screens. Human computers had learned to translate Zephyrian language, but some concepts were still difficult to understand. "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Peter highlighted several sections of the data. "These are not military records about conquering human space. They are survival reports about something called the Devourers. The Zephyrians are running from something, Captain, something that makes them look harmless by comparison." Amy entered the lab with Intelligence Officer Tony Martinez. Tony was a former Special Forces soldier who specialized in analyzing enemy communications. His job was to find patterns and hidden meanings in alien transmissions. "Captain, we have intercepted dozens of Zephyrian messages over the past few months," Tony said. "We thought they were tactical communications, but Dr. Hayes is right. They are talking about evacuation routes and defensive positions." Jake studied the translated messages. Words like fear, extinction, and inevitable appeared constantly. The Zephyrians were not attacking human colonies for conquest. They were testing human military capabilities to see if humanity could help them fight something else. Show him the genetic data, Peter said to Amy. She pulled up another screen that displayed complex DNA sequences. The aliens have been collecting human tissue samples from every battle, but they are not studying our biology for weapons. They are looking for specific neural patterns. What kind of neural patterns? Jake asked. Peter enhanced the display to show brain scans from human prisoners. The Zephyrians discovered that human minds work differently from theirs. Our neural networks are more chaotic and unpredictable. They believe this makes us resistant to some kind of mental influence, Jake felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in his mind. The Devourers can control other species mentally, he said. Peter nodded grimly. According to these records, the Devourers consume entire star systems by converting all living beings into extensions of their hive consciousness. The Zephyrians have been fighting them for over 200 years and losing badly. The door to the lab opened, and Admiral Sullivan entered with 2 military police officers. Jake expected to be arrested immediately, but the Admiral looked more concerned than angry. Captain Morrison, I have been reading Dr. Hayes's preliminary report. Is it true that the Zephyrians are refugees? She asked. Yes, Admiral, Peter replied. They have been searching for species that could resist Devourer mental control. Humans appear to be the only race they have found with the necessary neural structure. Admiral Sullivan dismissed the military police and sat down heavily. This changes everything, she said. If the Zephyrians are running from something worse, then we need to reconsider our entire strategy, Jake spoke carefully. Admiral, what about my court-martial? He asked. Sullivan looked at him with new respect. Captain, your actions at New Helena may have saved more than just one colony. The Zephyrian ship you captured has provided intelligence that could determine the outcome of this war. Tony pulled up long-range sensor data on his screen. Admiral, we have been detecting unusual gravitational anomalies at the edge of the galaxy for several weeks. At first we thought they were natural phenomena, but the patterns matched descriptions in the Zephyrian files. What kind of descriptions? Sullivan asked. Peter answered quietly. The arrival signatures of Devourer fleets. Admiral, I believe they have found us. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Humanity had been fighting the Zephyrians for 3 years, believing they were defending themselves against alien invaders. In reality, they had been fighting potential allies while a much greater threat approached from the darkness between stars. How long do we have? Sullivan asked. Peter checked his calculations. Based on the gravitational disturbances and Zephyrian records, I estimate 6 months before the Devourer Vanguard arrives in human space. Admiral Sullivan stood up and began pacing. Captain Morrison, I am reinstating you to full command of the UES Nightborne. Dr. Hayes, I need a complete analysis of Zephyrian technology and Devourer capabilities. Commander Brooks, prepare tactical assessments for defending against an enemy we have never fought. Jake felt relief mixed with fear. His career was safe, but humanity now faced an enemy that had destroyed dozens of alien civilizations. Admiral, what about the Zephyrians? He asked. Do we try to make contact? That decision will have to come from Earth Command, Sullivan replied. But Captain, I want you to be ready for anything. The Nightborne may be our only advantage in the coming war. Lisa entered the lab with a worried expression. Captain, I have been analyzing the quantum torpedo effects on Zephyrian ships. Our weapons are incredibly effective against their technology, but I found something disturbing in the debris. She showed them microscopic images of the destroyed alien hull material. The Zephyrian armor contains organic components. It is not just metal and ceramics. Parts of their ships are actually alive. Peter studied the images with growing excitement. Lisa, this is incredible. If Zephyrian technology is partially biological, it might explain how the Devourers can convert other species so easily. They are not just conquering civilizations, they are absorbing them into their collective consciousness. Jake realized the true scope of what they were facing. The Devourers were not just another alien empire seeking territory. They were a force of nature that consumed entire galaxies, turning every living thing into part of their vast mind. Humanity's chaotic and unpredictable nature might be the only thing that could stop them. 3 weeks after the New Helena incident, long-range sensors detected an unusual ship approaching Titan Station. The vessel was clearly Zephyrian in design, but it transmitted human diplomatic codes and requested permission to dock. Jake stood on the bridge of the Nightborne, watching the alien ship with mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "Captain, the Zephyrian vessel is broadcasting a message in perfect English," Amy reported. "They are requesting to speak with the commander of the ship that saved New Helena Colony." Admiral Sullivan appeared on the main screen from the station's command center. "Captain Morrison, this is unprecedented. No Zephyrian has ever requested peaceful contact with humans. I want you to handle the negotiations personally," Jake nodded. "Understood, Admiral. Ryan, prepare security teams but keep weapons powered down. Lisa, make sure our defensive systems are ready but not active. We do not want to appear threatening." The Zephyrian ship was smaller than their military cruisers, but far more elegant. Its hull curved in organic patterns that reminded Jake of living coral. Strange lights pulsed along its surface in rhythmic patterns that seemed almost like breathing. "Sir, they are requesting permission to come aboard," Amy said. The transmission identifies their leader as Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps. Jake made a decision that surprised his crew. "Grant them permission. Have them dock in Cargo Bay 3. I want to meet with them in person." Dr. Hayes joined Jake as they walked toward the cargo bay. "Captain, this could be a trap. We know very little about Zephyrian biology or their true intentions. Peter, they could have destroyed Titan Station from long range if they wanted to hurt us," Jake replied. "The fact that they are asking for permission to board suggests they genuinely want to communicate." The cargo bay doors opened to reveal 3 Zephyrian beings unlike anything Jake had expected. They were tall and graceful, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light. Their faces were humanoid, but with larger eyes and no visible hair. They wore flowing robes that changed color as they moved. Ambassador Veltar stepped forward and spoke in clear English. "Captain Morrison, I bring greetings from the Zephyrian High Council. We have come to discuss a matter of mutual survival." Jake studied the alien diplomat carefully. Veltar moved with fluid grace and showed no signs of aggression or fear. "Ambassador, your people have been attacking human colonies for 3 years. Why should we trust you now? Because the alternative is extinction for both our species," Veltar replied. "Captain, your actions at New Helena prove that humans possess capabilities we desperately need. The Devourers have found this galaxy, and we must work together or perish separately." Dr. Hayes stepped forward with his portable scanner. "Ambassador, would you consent to a medical examination? We need to understand your biology if we are going to establish trust." Veltar nodded and allowed Peter to scan him. The results appeared on the scanner's screen immediately. "Captain, this is remarkable," Peter said. "Zephyrian neural pathways are completely different from humans. Their thoughts are much more organized and linear. They literally cannot think." In the chaotic patterns that protect us from devourer influence, Jake began to understand why the Zephyrians had been testing human defenses. "You needed to know if we could fight the devourers effectively," he said to Veltar. The ambassador's large eyes showed what might have been relief. "Precisely, Captain. The Devourers convert other species by overwhelming their minds with collective consciousness. Your people's unpredictable thought patterns make you naturally resistant to this process. You are the first species we have encountered that cannot be easily absorbed. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sandra Clark joined them in the cargo bay. She had been monitoring the conversation from the medical bay and wanted to examine the aliens herself. "Ambassador, how many species have the Devourers conquered?" she asked. Veltar's skin color shifted to darker blue, which Jake interpreted as sadness. "Over 300 civilizations in our home galaxy. The Devourers consume everything. Planets, stars, even space itself is converted into their living network. We are the last survivors of our galaxy." Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had been fighting what they thought was an invasion, but the Zephyrians were actually refugees fleeing from something far worse. "What do you need from us?" he asked. "Alliance, Captain. Combined, our technologies might be able to resist the Devourers long enough to find a permanent solution. Separately, we will both be consumed within a year." The cargo bay doors opened again, and Admiral Sullivan entered with Colonel Tony Martinez and a squad of Marines. Tony looked suspicious and kept his hand near his weapon. "Captain Morrison, I hope you have a good explanation for allowing enemy aliens aboard our most secure facility." Jake turned to face the Admiral. "Ma'am, these are not our enemies. The Zephyrians are refugees, and they need our help to fight the real threat." Colonel Martinez stepped forward aggressively. "Captain, these aliens have killed thousands of human civilians. How can you even consider trusting them?" Ambassador Veltar spoke before Jake could respond. "Colonel, we deeply regret the harm we have caused your people. Our attacks were tests. To measure your military capabilities, we had to know if humans could serve as effective allies before revealing the truth about the Devourers." "That does not excuse genocide," Martinez replied angrily. Several of his Marines raised their weapons. Slightly, Jake quickly moved between the humans and Zephyrians. "Stand down, Colonel," Admiral Sullivan ordered. "Captain Morrison, explain the situation." Jake spent the next hour briefing Admiral Sullivan on everything they had learned about the Devourers. Dr. Hayes provided scientific data, while Ambassador Veltar shared historical records of previous Devourer invasion. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. "Admiral, the first Devourer scouts will arrive in approximately 5 months," Veltar said. "They will assess this galaxy's defenses before the main fleet arrives. If we can defeat the scouts, we might convince the Devourers that this galaxy is too well defended to be worth conquering." Admiral Sullivan studied the tactical data on her portable display. "What kind of ships are we facing?" she asked. "The scouts are massive biomechanical constructs that can regenerate damage and adapt to new weapons," Veltar explained. "Traditional energy weapons are almost useless against them. However, your quantum torpedoes might be effective because they disrupt molecular bonds." Jake realized that the Nightborne's experimental weapons were humanity's best hope for survival. "Admiral, we need to mass-produce quantum torpedoes and outfit every ship in the fleet with them." "Captain, that would take years with our current manufacturing capabilities," Sullivan replied. "We might have enough time to equip a few dozen ships at most." Ambassador Veltar's skin shifted to a hopeful green color. "Admiral, Zephyrian manufacturing technology is far more advanced than yours. We could produce thousands of quantum torpedoes in a few months if you share the weapon specifications," Colonel Martinez objected immediately. "Admiral, giving our most advanced weapons to the enemy is beyond dangerous. It is treason." Jake stepped forward again. "Colonel, they are not the enemy anymore. The Devourers are the enemy, and we need all the help we can get." The combined human Zephyrian fleet, assembled at the edge of the Prometheus Nebula, looked impressive on tactical displays. 50 human ships flew alongside 30 Zephyrian vessels, their formations stretching across millions of kilometers of space. Jake commanded the Nightborne at the center of the fleet. but he felt uneasy about their chances against an enemy no one had ever fought before. 2 months had passed since the alliance was formed. Human and Zephyrian engineers had worked together to mass-produce quantum torpedoes and upgrade ship defenses. The cooperation had been difficult at first, but both species learned to respect each other's capabilities. "Captain, long-range sensors are detecting massive gravitational distortions approaching from deep space," Ryan reported. "Whatever is coming toward us is larger than anything in our databases." Jake studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. The objects approaching the nebula were not ships in any conventional sense. They were living creatures the size of small moons, moving through space without any visible propulsion systems. Ambassador Veltar stood beside Jake on the bridge. The Zephyrian diplomat had remained aboard the Nightborne to coordinate with the human fleet. "Captain, those are Devourer bioships. Each one can consume an entire planet and convert its mass into more creatures." "How many are we facing?" Jake asked. Amy enhanced the long-range sensors and counted the approaching contacts. "Sir, I am reading 12 large bioships and approximately 200 smaller escort vessels." Dr. Hayes looked up from his science station with a worried expression. "Captain, the energy readings from those creatures are off the scale. They are generating power equivalent to entire star systems." Jake activated the fleet communications system. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Prepare for engagement. Remember, these creatures can adapt to our weapons, so we need to hit them hard and fast before they can adjust their defenses." The Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace in a formation that defied conventional tactics. The massive bioships arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the smaller escorts. Strange energy patterns flowed between them like a nervous system connecting different organs. "Captain, they are scanning us," Lisa reported from engineering. "I am detecting some kind of neural probe, attempting to access our computer systems." Veltar's skin shifted to a warning orange color. "They are trying to establish mental contact with your crew. Captain, you must activate your neural shields." Immediately, Jake had forgotten about the experimental neural protection devices that human scientists had developed based on Zephyrian technology. "All crew, activate neural shields now," he ordered. Every person on the ship pressed a small device attached to their uniform. The shields created interference patterns that disrupted Devourer mental influence. "Fleet command to all ships. Begin the attack," Jake ordered. 80 vessels fired simultaneously, launching over 300 quantum torpedoes at the Devourer formation. The weapons struck their targets in waves of blue lightning that tore through space. The results were devastating, but not decisive. Several smaller Devourer vessels were completely destroyed, their biomechanical hulls unable to withstand quantum disruption. But the larger creatures absorbed the damage and began to change. Their hulls thickened and developed new armor plating that glowed with protective energy. "Sir, they are adapting to our weapons," Ryan reported. "The second volley of torpedoes is having much less effect." A Zephyrian cruiser commander spoke over the communication system. "Human vessels. The creatures are learning from each attack. We must change our tactics immediately." Jake watched in horror as the Devourer bioships began to fight back. Streams of energy that looked like liquid fire poured from their hulls toward the Allied fleet. The weapons moved through space like living things, seeking out targets with predatory intelligence. "Evasive maneuvers," Jake ordered. The Nightborne twisted through space using its quantum drives, but the Devourer weapons followed every movement. When the energy streams finally struck the ship, the adaptive armor began to smoke and crack under the assault. "Captain, our armor is failing," Lisa called out. "These weapons are designed specifically to counter adaptive technology. They are using our own defensive systems against us." 3 human destroyers were caught in crossfire between 2 Devourer escorts. Jake watched helplessly as the ships were enveloped in the liquid fire weapons. Instead of exploding, the human vessels began to change. Their hulls sprouted organic growths, and their weapon systems transformed into biological structures. The Devourers are not just destroying our ships, Dr. Hayes said with growing horror. They are converting them into more bio-vessels. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez piloted a fighter squadron that was trying to attack the largest Devourer creature. His small ships darted between the massive tentacles that served as the creature's weapons, but conventional missiles bounced harmlessly off its regenerating hull. "Fighter Command, this is Rodriguez," Sam transmitted. "Our weapons are not penetrating their defenses. Request permission to try something desperate." Jake heard the transmission and understood what Sam was planning. "Negative, Rodriguez. Return to the carrier immediately." "Sorry, Captain. Someone has to test their regeneration limits," Sam replied. He disconnected his communication system and flew his fighter directly toward the largest bioship's core. His fighter's reactor was set to overload, turning the small vessel into a massive bomb. The explosion when Sam's fighter struck the creature was smaller than Jake expected, but something important happened. For just a few seconds, the bioship stopped regenerating damage from other attacks. Its healing process was disrupted while it dealt with the internal explosion. "All ships, target the large bioship now," Jake ordered. "We have a window of opportunity." The combined fleet concentrated all firepower on the wounded creature. Quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, and kinetic projectiles struck its hull before it could fully regenerate. The massive bioship convulsed and began to break apart, its organic components dissolving into space. But the victory was costly. Sam's sacrifice had revealed a weakness in Devourer defenses, but the Allied fleet had lost a dozen ships and hundreds of crew members. The remaining Devourer vessels began to retreat toward the edge of the system, but Jake knew they would return with reinforcements. "Captain, we cannot hold this position," Veltar said. "The Devourers will send a larger force now that they have analyzed our capabilities." Jake made the hardest decision of his military career. "All ships, fall back to Earth's outer defenses. We will make our final stand there." As the combined fleet retreated from the Prometheus Nebula, Jake realized that humanity's survival depended on more than advanced weapons or alien allies. They needed the kind of desperate, unpredictable tactics that had gotten him in trouble at New Helena. The Devourers could adapt to any conventional strategy, but they might not be able to handle the chaos that humans called innovation. Earth's solar system had become a fortress in the 3 weeks since the retreat from Prometheus Nebula. Every asteroid belt bristled with weapon platforms, and the combined human-Zephyrian fleet formed defensive lines around the outer planets. Jake stood on the Nightborne's bridge, watching long-range sensors as millions of Devourer bioships approached from the darkness between stars. The enemy fleet was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Bioships the size of continents moved alongside smaller vessels that numbered in the hundreds of thousands. At the center of the formation was something that defied description, a creature so massive that it bent space around itself like a living black hole. "Captain, the lead elements of their fleet will reach Pluto's orbit in 6 hours, Ryan reported. "At current speed, they will be in Earth orbit within 18 hours. Admiral Sullivan appeared on the main screen from Earth Command. Her face showed the strain of preparing humanity's last defense. "Captain Morrison, our deep space observatories have identified the central creature. According to Zephyrian records, it is a Devourer nexus, the controlling intelligence for their entire fleet." Ambassador Veltar joined Jake at the tactical display. "Captain, if we can destroy the Nexus, the other bioships will lose coordination. They will become much easier to defeat individually." Jake studied the formation of enemy vessels surrounding the Nexus. Getting close enough to attack it would require penetrating layers of defensive creatures, each one adapted to counter their weapons. "How do we reach something that is protected by 1,000,000 bioships?" he asked. Dr. Hayes looked up from his science station with an expression of desperate inspiration. "Captain, I have been analyzing the quantum drive's effects on local space-time. Theoretically, we could create a temporal anomaly that would trap the Devourer fleet in a causality loop. Explain, Jake ordered. Peter activated a holographic display that showed twisted ribbons of light representing space-time. If we overload the quantum drives while they are creating a dimensional fold, we could trap everything within a specific area in a time bubble. The Devourers would be attacking targets that technically have not appeared yet. Lisa shook her head from engineering. Peter, that would require pushing the quantum drives far beyond safety limits. The feedback could tear the ship apart at the molecular level. Jake realized what Peter was suggesting. The Nightborne would have to sacrifice itself to create the temporal anomaly. How long would the time bubble last? He asked. Long enough for the fleet to destroy the Nexus and scatter the bioships, Peter replied. But, Captain, the ship generating the anomaly would not survive the process. The bridge fell silent as everyone understood the implications. Jake looked at each member of his crew and saw determination rather than fear in their faces. These people had volunteered for an experimental mission knowing they might not survive. Now they had a chance to save both Earth and the Zephyrian refugees. Amy, open a channel to all ships, Jake ordered. This is Captain Morrison aboard the Nightborne. We are going to attempt something that has never been tried before. If we succeed, the Devourer threat will be neutralized. If we fail, remember us as people who tried to save the galaxy. The Devourer vanguard reached the outer defensive lines and began their attack. Human and Zephyrian ships fought desperately, but their weapons had limited effect against bioships that had adapted to quantum torpedoes. Jake watched dozens of Allied vessels converted into Devourer creatures within minutes. Captain, it is time, Lisa said from engineering. The quantum drives are charged beyond maximum capacity. I can hold them stable for maybe 10 minutes before they tear us apart. Jake activated the ship's internal communication system. All hands prepare for emergency temporal displacement. What we are about to attempt will either save the galaxy or destroy us trying. The Nightborne began to phase between dimensions as its quantum drives created impossible distortions in space-time. The ship became translucent, then solid, then translucent again as it moved through multiple realities simultaneously. Jake felt his consciousness stretching across parallel timelines where different versions of the battle were playing out. Temporal field is building, Peter reported. We are approaching the critical threshold for causality disruption. The Devourer fleet suddenly found themselves attacking targets that flickered in and out of existence. Their bioships fired at human vessels that vanished before the weapons could strike, then reappeared in different locations. The aliens' adaptive capabilities were useless against attacks that had not happened yet. All ships, concentrate fire. On the Nexus now, Jake ordered. The combined fleet launched everything they had at the massive central creature. Quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, and kinetic missiles struck the Nexus from multiple timelines simultaneously. The Devourer Nexus convulsed as weapons from past, present, and future struck its hull at the same moment. Its biomechanical systems could not adapt to attacks that were occurring in temporal paradox. Massive sections of the creature began to dissolve as its cellular structure collapsed under impossible conditions. Captain, the quantum drives are reaching critical overload, Lisa called out. We have maybe 2 minutes before they destabilize completely. Jake made his final decision as a starship captain. All crew to escape pods immediately. That is a direct order. Ryan stepped forward. Sir, someone needs to manually control the quantum field. The temporal anomaly will collapse if the drives are not precisely calibrated. I will handle it, Commander, Jake replied. Get the crew to safety. Captain, we all volunteered for this mission together, Lisa said. If you are staying, we are staying, Dr. Hayes nodded in agreement. The scientific data from this experiment could help future generations understand temporal mechanics. Someone needs to record what happens. Jake looked at his crew and felt pride mixed with sadness. These people had become more than fellow officers. They had become family. Amy, Transmit all our data to Admiral Sullivan. Make sure the alliance between humans and Zephyrians continues after we are gone." The Nightborne suddenly appeared directly in front of the wounded Nexus. Jake pushed the quantum drives to absolute maximum, creating a dimensional fold that wrapped around both ships. Reality twisted as space and time began to tear apart at the fundamental level. "Initiating quantum cascade," Jake announced. "All ships, clear the area immediately." The explosion when the Nightborne's quantum core destabilized was unlike anything that had ever occurred in normal space. A sphere of pure energy expanded outward, erasing everything within its boundary from existence. The Devourer Nexus and hundreds of surrounding bioships simply vanished, leaving empty space where they had been. Without their controlling intelligence, the remaining Devourer creatures lost coordination and began attacking each other. The Allied fleet moved in quickly to destroy the confused bioships before they could reorganize. Within hours, the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced was reduced to scattered debris floating in Earth's solar system. Admiral Sullivan stood in the command center watching rescue ships search for survivors. The Nightborne was gone, but long-range sensors detected multiple escape pods scattered throughout the battle area. Jake Morrison and his crew had saved the galaxy, and somehow most of them had survived to see their victory. 6 months later, a new ship slid out of the construction yards above Earth. The UES Nightborne II was larger and more advanced than her predecessor, incorporating both human and Zephyrian technology. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on her bridge, watching his crew prepare for their first mission as protectors of the Galactic Alliance. Ambassador Veltar joined him at the tactical station. "Captain Brooks, the High Council has approved the establishment of joint patrol bases throughout this galaxy. Humans and Zephyrians will work together to ensure that threats like the Devourers never catch us unprepared again." Ryan nodded and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Jake Morrison was commanding a research vessel exploring the temporal anomalies created by the quantum explosion. The original Nightborne was gone, but her legacy lived on in the alliance that would protect the galaxy for generations to come. Sometimes the greatest victories required breaking the rules and sacrificing everything for the greater good.